What if I told you one jar of salt could cost less than $1, while another sells for nearly $100? They may all look like tiny white crystals, but that's where the similarities end. Some salts have shaped entire civilizations. Others were once worth more than gold. A few are harvested by hand for only a few days each year, while one rare variety naturally forms in brilliant shades of blue. From the everyday salt sitting in your kitchen cabinet to the world's rarest gourmet crystals, every type has its own history, flavor, and surprising secret. Today, we're exploring every major salt you'll ever encounter, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what makes each one unique, why chefs obsess over certain varieties, and whether any of the expensive ones are actually worth buying. Let's begin with the salt almost everyone uses every single day. Number 1, table salt. If there were a king of everyday seasoning, table salt would wear the crown. Nearly every household has it, yet very few people know how much engineering goes into something so ordinary. Most table salt begins as either underground rock salt or seawater. After being harvested, it goes through heavy refining until it's almost pure sodium chloride. Nearly everything else is removed, leaving behind clean, bright white crystals that dissolve almost instantly. That fast-dissolving quality isn't accidental. Manufacturers carefully control the crystal size so the salt spreads evenly and delivers the same flavor every single time. That's why recipes relying on table salt tend to be extremely consistent. But the biggest innovation wasn't about flavor. Back in the 1920s, iodine deficiency caused widespread thyroid problems across many parts of the United States. Adding iodine to ordinary table salt became one of the simplest public health solutions ever introduced, dramatically reducing those illnesses within a generation. Most people never even notice another ingredient quietly doing its job. Anti-caking agents keep the crystals from sticking together, allowing the salt to pour freely even in humid kitchens. Simple, reliable, inexpensive. It may never impress gourmet chefs, but few ingredients have quietly improved both cooking and public health as much as ordinary table salt. The next salt looks similar at first glance, but its larger flakes completely change how professional chefs season food, and one hidden difference catches home cooks by surprise. Number 2, kosher salt. At first glance, kosher salt doesn't seem very different from table salt. But pick up a pinch and you'll immediately understand why professional chefs swear by it. Instead of tiny, compact grains, kosher salt forms large, light flakes that feel almost weightless between your fingers. Those flakes create far more surface area, allowing the salt to grab moisture quickly and spread evenly across food. That's exactly why it became the preferred salt for the traditional Jewish process of koshering meat, where salt is used to draw out blood before cooking. The salt's name comes from this practice, not because the salt itself is automatically kosher. Today, however, chefs love it for an entirely different reason. Those large flakes give you incredible control while seasoning. You can literally feel how much salt you're adding with every pinch, making it much harder to accidentally overseason a dish. But here's the hidden trap that catches thousands of home cooks every year. Kosher salt isn't standardized. 1 tablespoon from one brand can weigh significantly more or less than the exact same tablespoon from another brand. 2 recipes may both call for 1 tablespoon of kosher salt, yet the final dish can taste completely different depending on which brand you use. Many people blame themselves when a recipe turns out overly salty. In reality, the recipe may have been written using a different brand altogether. That's why experienced chefs often recommend measuring kosher salt by weight instead of volume whenever precision matters. Even with that quirk, kosher salt remains one of the most versatile salts you can keep in your kitchen. It's perfect for seasoning steaks before grilling, roasting vegetables, curing meats, and adding layers of flavor throughout the cooking process. But despite its popularity, kosher salt is still a factory-produced product. The next salt is much closer to nature itself, formed simply by sun, wind, and the sea, with almost no refining at all. Number 3, sea salt. Long before factories refined salt into perfect white crystals, people simply let nature do the work. That's exactly how sea salt is made. It begins with nothing more than seawater. As the sun heats the surface and the wind carries away the moisture, water slowly disappears until only sparkling crystals remain. Because the salt undergoes very little processing, it keeps tiny amounts of naturally occurring minerals like magnesium, calcium, and potassium. These minerals are the reason some sea salts appear off-white or even light gray instead of perfectly white. They also explain why sea salt from different coastlines can taste surprisingly different. A sea salt harvested from the Mediterranean won't taste exactly like one collected off the coast of Australia or Japan. Even subtle differences in climate, water composition, and harvesting methods can influence the final flavor. Many people believe those extra minerals make sea salt much healthier than ordinary table salt. Not exactly. While the minerals are real, they're present in such small amounts that they contribute very little to your daily nutritional needs. From a health perspective, sea salt and table salt are far more alike than most advertisements would have you believe. Where sea salt truly stands out is in texture and flavor. Its larger, irregular crystals create tiny bursts of crunch that chefs often use to finish grilled vegetables, seafood, fresh salads, or artisan bread. Instead of disappearing into the food, the crystals remain visible, adding both texture and visual appeal. But here's an incredible fact. Some of the world's most celebrated sea salt isn't collected from the bottom of a salt pond at all. It's harvested from an impossibly thin layer that floats on the very surface of the water, and every delicate crystal must be gathered entirely by hand. We'll discover that extraordinary salt a little later. For now, let's leave the ocean behind and travel hundreds of millions of years into the past, where entire ancient seas transformed into solid rock beneath the earth. Number 4. Rock salt. Imagine standing on solid ground while an entire ancient ocean lies buried beneath your feet. That isn't science fiction. It's exactly where rock salt comes from. Hundreds of millions of years ago, vast inland seas slowly evaporated, leaving behind enormous layers of salt that became trapped beneath layers of stone. Over time, those ancient deposits hardened into massive underground formations that miners still extract today. Some of these deposits are almost impossible to comprehend. Beneath the city of Detroit, for example, stretches a gigantic network of salt mines carved through one of the largest underground salt beds in North America. Far below the streets, miners continue harvesting crystals that first formed when prehistoric seas disappeared long before humans ever existed. Freshly mined rock salt, however, doesn't look anything like the clean white crystals on your dinner table. In its natural state, it's mixed with clay, sand, minerals, and other impurities, giving it a rough appearance that makes it unsuitable for cooking. That's why much of it ends up somewhere completely different. Every winter, millions of tons of untreated rock salt are spread across highways and sidewalks to melt snow and ice, making roads safer for drivers around the world, but another portion follows a very different journey. After being crushed, purified, and refined, that same ancient rock becomes many of the familiar salts sitting on supermarket shelves, including ordinary table salt and even some brands of kosher salt. It's one of the biggest surprises in the salt world. The cheapest bag of de-icing salt and the refined salt in your kitchen may have started life inside the exact same underground deposit. The difference lies entirely in how they're processed after being mined. Now, we're about to meet perhaps the most famous gourmet salt on Earth, a beautiful pink crystal that appears in grinders, cooking blocks, spa treatments, and decorative lamps. Despite its popularity, almost everything people think they know about it is wrong. Number 5. Himalayan pink salt. Walk into almost any gourmet grocery store and you'll probably spot it immediately. Pink crystals packed inside elegant grinders, massive cooking slabs, decorative lamps glowing with a warm orange light. Himalayan pink salt has become one of the world's most recognizable specialty salts, but it's also surrounded by more myths than almost any other variety. Let's clear up the biggest one first. Despite its name, Himalayan pink salt doesn't actually come from the Himalayas. Nearly all of it is mined from the Kura Salt Mine in Pakistan, located in the Salt Range, a separate chain of hills sitting hundreds of miles south of the Himalayan peaks. The name sounds more exotic than the geography actually is. Its beautiful pink color isn't magical either. It's created by tiny traces of iron oxide trapped inside the crystal over millions of years. Those microscopic mineral deposits scatter light just enough to produce the soft pink glow people instantly recognize. The mine itself is astonishing. Kira is one of the largest and oldest salt mines on Earth, stretching for miles underground. Every year, hundreds of thousands of visitors explore its tunnels, where entire chambers, sculptures, and even a functioning mosque have been built entirely from glowing blocks of salt. It's one of the few places where the walls themselves seem to shine. But now comes the myth that refuses to disappear. Many advertisements claim Himalayan pink salt contains dozens of minerals that dramatically improve your health. Technically, that's true. Practically, it means almost nothing. Those trace minerals account for only a tiny fraction of the crystal. More than 95% of Himalayan pink salt is still ordinary sodium chloride. You'd have to consume dangerously large amounts of salt just to get meaningful quantities of those extra minerals, something no doctor would ever recommend. So why do chefs still enjoy using it? Because of its flavor. It has a clean, mellow taste with slightly less harshness than heavily refined table salt, making it an excellent finishing salt for grilled meats, roasted vegetables, seafood, and fresh salads. In the end, Himalayan pink salt isn't a miracle health food. It's simply a beautiful natural salt with an incredible geological story behind it. But everything we've covered so far is still relatively affordable. The next salt is harvested so delicately that only a paper-thin layer can be collected each day, and that's exactly why chefs are willing to pay extraordinary prices for it. Number 6. Fleur de sel. Most salts are harvested from the bottom. This one is collected from the top. So delicate, so rare, and so labor-intensive that chefs often call it the caviar of salt. Welcome to Fleur de sel. Its name literally means flower of salt, and once you see how it's harvested, the name makes perfect sense. In the famous salt marshes of Gironde, France, something remarkable happens on warm, dry afternoons. As seawater slowly evaporates under the sun, an impossibly thin layer of fragile crystals begins floating across the surface like tiny white flowers blooming on the water. Those crystals survive only if nature cooperates. The temperature has to be just right. The humidity must stay low. Even the wind matters. A gentle eastern breeze helps create the perfect conditions, while unexpected rain or strong gusts can destroy the entire day's harvest within minutes. That's why Fleur de sel can never be mass-produced. Instead of machines, skilled salt workers carefully skim the fragile surface by hand using long wooden rakes, lifting only the paper-thin layer without disturbing the heavier salt forming underneath. Each pond produces only a tiny amount every day. That's one of the biggest reasons Fleur de sel commands such a premium price. Ironically, it wasn't always considered valuable. Centuries ago, workers viewed this floating layer as little more than an inconvenience. They scraped it away simply to reach the larger salt crystals below, often throwing it aside without a second thought. Only later did chefs discover what they had been discarding. Unlike dry, hard salts, Fleur de sel retains a slight natural moisture. The crystals are soft, delicate, and almost melt across your tongue instead of delivering a sharp burst of saltiness. Its flavor is subtle, clean, and surprisingly complex. That's why professional chefs almost never cook with it. Heat would destroy everything that makes it special. Instead, Fleur de sel is added at the very last second, sprinkled over grilled steak, roasted vegetables, fresh tomatoes, artisan bread, rich caramel, or even dark chocolate, where every crystal remains visible and every bite delivers a gentle crunch. Sometimes the final touch makes all the difference, but underneath those floating crystals lies another famous French salt with a completely different personality, darker, bolder, and built for everyday cooking rather than elegant finishing touches. Number 7. Sel gris. Just beneath the delicate layer of Fleur de sel lies another treasure hidden in the very same salt marshes. It couldn't be more different. Where Fleur de sel is light and elegant, sel gris is bold, rugged, and built for real cooking. Its name means gray salt, and unlike many people assume, that color isn't caused by dirt or impurities. It's created naturally. As the larger crystals settle to the bottom of the salt ponds, they come into direct contact with the mineral-rich clay beneath them. Over time, the salt absorbs tiny amounts of those minerals, giving it its signature gray color and a noticeably deeper flavor. This isn't a modern invention either. People have been harvesting sel gris from the French coast for over 2,000 years, dating back to the ancient Celtic civilizations. Even today, many producers still rely on traditional wooden tools and centuries-old harvesting methods passed down through generations. One thing you'll notice immediately is its texture. Unlike dry table salt, sel gris stays naturally damp. The crystals are larger, heavier, and slightly sticky, making them clump together in your hand. That moisture is exactly what gives it so much character. Instead of delivering a quick burst of saltiness, sel gris brings a richer, almost ocean-like flavor that develops gradually while food cooks. Because of its bold personality, chefs rarely use it as a finishing salt. Instead, it shines during the cooking process itself. It's outstanding for seasoning pasta water, dry brining steaks, roasting root vegetables, curing meats, or adding depth to slow-cooked stews. Its strong mineral profile allows it to hold its flavor even during long cooking times, making it one of the hardest-working salts in professional kitchens. If Fleur de sel is the elegant jewelry of French cuisine, sel gris is the dependable workhorse that quietly handles the heavy lifting every day. But cross the English Channel and salt takes on an entirely different identity. The next variety isn't famous because of its minerals or its history. It's famous because of one unforgettable sensation, the incredible crunch of its delicate pyramid-shaped flakes. Number 8. Maldon sea salt. Some salts disappear the moment they touch your tongue. Maldon does the exact opposite. It shatters. That's the unmistakable quality that has made Maldon sea salt one of the most respected finishing salts in the world. Produced in the small coastal town of Maldon in Essex, England, this salt has earned an almost legendary reputation among professional chefs, not because it's the saltiest, but because of the remarkable way its crystals feel when you eat them. Its signature pyramid-shaped flakes are no accident. After seawater is carefully filtered, it's gently heated under controlled conditions until delicate hollow crystals begin to form. Instead of creating dense grains, the process produces thin, fragile pyramids that are surprisingly light and crisp. Pick up a flake between your fingers and you'll notice something immediately. It crushes with almost no effort. That delicate crunch creates tiny bursts of saltiness that dissolve gradually rather than all at once, giving every bite a satisfying texture that's impossible to achieve with ordinary salt. Maldon's history stretches back much further than the modern company itself. The Osborne family has operated the business since 1882, but salt has been produced in this area for nearly 1,000 years. Historical records from the Domesday Book of 1086 documented numerous salt works around Maldon, and many historians believe the Romans were harvesting sea salt here nearly 2,000 years ago. Few salts can claim such an unbroken connection to history. Its reputation eventually reached the highest levels of British society. Today, Maldon proudly holds a royal warrant, meaning it has been officially supplied to the British royal household, a distinction reserved for companies that consistently provide exceptional quality. Yet despite its prestigious status, Maldon remains wonderfully simple. Its flavor is clean, bright, and balanced, without the harsh edge sometimes found in heavily refined salts. The real magic lies in the texture, making it ideal as a finishing touch rather than an ingredient hidden during cooking. A few flakes scattered over grilled steak, fresh sourdough with butter, roasted vegetables, chocolate chip cookies, even a perfectly fried egg. Each crystal stays intact just long enough to deliver one satisfying crunch before melting away. But while England became famous for perfecting flaky salt, just across the water, another small island created a sea salt so unique that the British government gave it the same legal protection as champagne. Number 9. Halen Mon. Great discoveries don't always begin in laboratories. Sometimes they begin in an ordinary kitchen. That's exactly how Halen Mon was born. In 1997, a husband and wife living on the Welsh island of Anglesey decided to boil a pot of local seawater simply to see what would happen. They weren't trying to build a luxury food brand. They were satisfying their curiosity. To their surprise, the crystals that formed were exceptionally pure, clean, and unlike anything sold in supermarkets. That small kitchen experiment eventually grew into one of Britain's most celebrated artisan salt producers. But luck wasn't the only reason for its success. The seawater surrounding Anglesey is naturally filtered as powerful tides move through the Menai Strait, removing many impurities before the water is ever collected. The result is an unusually clean source that requires very little intervention. Even after harvesting, the crystals receive one final touch. They're gently rinsed to soften their sharp edges, creating a smoother, rounder flavor that many people describe as almost slightly sweet. Unlike aggressive finishing salts that immediately dominate a dish, Halen Mon enhances food with remarkable balance, allowing natural flavors to remain the star. Its reputation quickly spread far beyond Wales. In 2014, Halen Mon became the first British salt to receive Protected Designation of Origin status, the same type of legal protection granted to products like champagne and Parma ham. Only salt produced in this specific region using its traditional methods can legally carry the Halen Mon name. There's another fascinating detail hidden behind every batch. Because the British Crown technically owns much of the country's coastline, the company actually pays rent for the right to draw seawater from the surrounding waters. It's one of the few gourmet ingredients whose story begins with paperwork before it ever reaches the pan. Today, Halen Mon is prized by chefs for seafood, roasted poultry, fresh vegetables, artisan bread, and delicate desserts where subtle seasoning makes all the difference. It's proof that sometimes simplicity done perfectly can become world famous. But the next salt couldn't be more different. Instead of smelling fresh and clean, it releases a powerful aroma that surprises almost everyone the first time they open the jar. Some people think something has gone horribly wrong. Others instantly recognize the unmistakable scent of boiled eggs. And that's exactly how it's supposed to smell. Number 10. Kala Namak. Open a jar of Kala Namak for the first time. And you might think someone left a hard-boiled egg sitting in the kitchen. That unmistakable sulfur aroma is so powerful that many people assume the salt has gone bad. In reality, that's exactly what makes it special. Kala Namak, often called Indian black salt, has been a staple of South Asian cuisine for centuries. Despite its name, it isn't truly black at all. Large chunks usually appear deep purple or dark brown, while the ground version often turns pinkish gray. Its appearance isn't what people remember, though. It's the smell. That signature egg-like aroma comes from naturally occurring sulfur compounds created during production. The scent is almost identical to the one released by cooked eggs, giving Kala Namak one of the most recognizable flavor profiles in the culinary world. Here's something many people don't realize. Not all Kala Namak is simply mined from the earth. Traditional producers often transform ordinary salt through a fascinating process. The salt is sealed together with charcoal, herbs, seeds, and natural minerals before being heated for many hours at extremely high temperatures. During this process, chemical reactions create the sulfur compounds responsible for its famous aroma and distinctive taste. In other words, the magic happens in the fire. That unique flavor has made Kala Namak irreplaceable in countless Indian dishes, especially chates, fruit salads, chutneys, and spice blends where just a small pinch adds incredible depth. But perhaps its biggest rise to fame has come from modern vegan cooking. Because the sulfur compounds closely mimic the flavor of cooked eggs, vegan chefs use Kala Namak to transform scrambled tofu, chickpea omelets, vegan mayonnaise, and plant-based breakfast dishes into something remarkably similar to traditional egg recipes. It's one of the simplest ingredients capable of completely fooling your senses. Your eyes may tell you you're eating tofu, your nose insists it's scrambled eggs, and your brain struggles to decide which one to believe. Few ingredients create such a dramatic sensory illusion. But while Kala Namak is famous for its unforgettable aroma, the next two salts are all about visual impact. One is a brilliant volcanic red. The other is jet black. Together, they've become two of the most striking finishing salts ever placed on a plate. Number 11, Hawaiian red Alea salt and Hiwa Kai black salt. Most gourmet salts are admired for their flavor. These two stop people before they even take a bite. One is the color of volcanic earth. The other is as black as polished obsidian. Together, they represent two of Hawaii's most visually stunning culinary traditions. Let's start with the red one, Alea salt. Alea salt begins as pure Hawaiian sea salt, but its signature color comes from something completely natural. Red volcanic clay. Rich in iron oxide, the clay coats every crystal with a warm brick red hue while adding a subtle earthy character that makes the flavor slightly softer and more rounded than ordinary sea salt. For native Hawaiians, however, Alea salt has always been much more than seasoning. For generations, it played an important role in traditional ceremonies, purification rituals, and cultural celebrations. It wasn't simply sprinkled over food, it carried deep spiritual significance as well. Its culinary history is just as impressive. During the 19th century, Hawaiian red salt was even exported across the Pacific to help preserve salmon in the Pacific Northwest. Today, it remains an essential ingredient in classic Hawaiian dishes like kalua pig, poke, and traditional roasted meats, where its mild mineral flavor complements rather than overwhelms the food. But if Alea salt is all about warm earth tones, its island companion heads in the exact opposite direction. Hiwakai black salt. Hiwakai is one of the most dramatic-looking salts you'll ever see. The crystals are deep black with a glossy finish that instantly catches the eye. Many people assume the color comes from volcanic lava. It doesn't. Despite being marketed as black lava salt, there's actually no lava in the product. The striking color comes from activated charcoal, most commonly made from burned coconut shells, blended with natural Hawaiian sea salt. The charcoal contributes very little flavor. Instead, its purpose is almost entirely visual. Hiwakai delivers a clean, crisp saltiness with only the faintest hint of smokiness. The real appeal is the stunning contrast it creates on the plate. Imagine glossy black crystals scattered across a perfectly seared scallop, a piece of grilled white fish, fresh mozzarella, or creamy mashed potatoes. The colors alone transform an ordinary dish into something that looks worthy of a fine dining restaurant. That's why Hiwakai is almost always used as a finishing salt rather than during cooking. Its beauty deserves to be seen. Interestingly, Hawaii isn't the only place producing dramatic black salt. Across the Mediterranean, Cyprus creates a similar charcoal-infused flake salt for exactly the same reason: pure visual impact. But the next salt doesn't rely on charcoal, clay, or any added ingredient for its incredible appearance. Its brilliant blue color is completely natural, and because so little of it exists, most people will never see it outside of photographs. Number 12. Persian blue salt. If someone handed you a handful of naturally blue salt, you'd probably assume it had been dyed. Not this one. Persian blue salt is one of the rarest and most visually stunning salts on Earth, and every streak of blue is completely natural. Harvested from ancient rock salt deposits in northern Iran, these crystals were formed when prehistoric seas evaporated over 100 million years ago. For countless millennia, immense pressure transformed those deposits into dense mineral-rich stone hidden deep beneath the mountains. Then nature did something extraordinary. Tiny amounts of the mineral sylvite became trapped inside certain crystals, subtly altering the way light passes through them. Instead of appearing white or pink, parts of the crystal shimmer with brilliant shades of icy blue. No coloring, no artificial treatment, just geology performing a trick that seems almost impossible. Because only a small percentage of the mined crystals display this effect, finding premium quality Persian blue salt is incredibly difficult. Each crystal must be carefully sorted by hand, making large quantities nearly impossible to produce. That rarity explains why it's considered one of the world's most exclusive gourmet salts. Its flavor is just as unusual as its appearance. Unlike many salts that hit your tongue with an immediate burst of salinity, Persian blue salt starts with a bold, clean saltiness before gradually revealing subtle mineral notes with a faint citrus-like finish. Some chefs even describe the aftertaste as slightly lemony. The texture adds another layer of luxury. Its dense crystals deliver an exceptionally crisp crunch that lingers longer than most finishing salts, making every bite feel more deliberate and refined. Because of its rarity, professional chefs rarely use it during cooking. Instead, it's reserved for finishing premium ingredients where both its beauty and texture can be fully appreciated. Fresh oysters, delicate seafood, high-quality beef, dark chocolate, or even a simple slice of buttered artisan bread. Sometimes just a few blue crystals are enough to transform an ordinary plate into something unforgettable. Worldwide production is astonishingly small. Only a few tons reach the market each year, meaning most people will never have the chance to taste the real thing. But despite its rarity, Persian blue salt still isn't the most expensive salt on this list. That title belongs to a remarkable Korean salt that isn't valuable because of where it's found. It's valuable because of what people do to it. Imagine roasting the same salt once, then again, and again, until you've repeated the process 9 separate times inside real bamboo stalks. The result is unlike any other salt in the world. Number 13. Bamboo salt Jukium. Some luxury foods are expensive because they're rare. Bamboo salt is expensive because almost no one has the patience to make it. Known in Korea as Jukium, this remarkable salt undergoes one of the most demanding production methods in the culinary world. It doesn't begin in a mine. It starts with ordinary sea salt, but from that point on everything changes. Workers tightly pack the salt inside thick bamboo stalks before sealing both ends with natural clay. The bamboo is then placed over an intense pine wood fire and roasted until the stalks are completely burned away. For most foods, that would be the end of the process. For bamboo salt, it's only the beginning. The roasted salt is collected, packed into fresh bamboo, sealed again, and fired once more. Then it happens again and again. By the time premium bamboo salt reaches the market, this cycle has been repeated 9 separate times. Each roasting removes impurities while allowing trace minerals from the bamboo and clay to interact with the salt. The final firing becomes so hot that the crystals partially melt together into a dense, rock-like mass that must later be crushed by hand. The entire process can take weeks. It's slow, labor-intensive, and incredibly expensive. That's why a single small jar of authentic 9 times roasted bamboo salt can cost close to $100. Its flavor is unlike ordinary sea salt. The first taste is savory and rich, followed by gentle smoky notes with a subtle sulfur finish that lingers much longer than traditional salts. It's bold enough that only a small pinch is needed. Historically, Koreans valued bamboo salt for far more than cooking. For centuries, it was considered a medicinal ingredient. People believed it promoted wellness, and some even used finely ground bamboo salt in toothpaste because of its perceived cleansing properties. Modern science doesn't support every traditional health claim, but there's no denying that bamboo salt occupies a unique place in Korean culinary history. Today, chefs reserve it for premium dishes where its complex flavor can truly stand out. Grilled Wagyu beef, fresh seafood, roasted mushrooms, or even a perfectly steamed bowl of rice. Sometimes a few crystals are all it takes to transform an entire meal. Yet, even this extraordinary salt can't compete with the next one in terms of historical significance. Its production method disappeared for over 1,000 years. The world believed it had been lost forever, until archaeologists uncovered the forgotten secret buried beneath the soil of Japan. Number 14. Amabito no moshio. Some ancient recipes vanish forever. This one disappeared for more than 1,000 years. For centuries, historians knew Japan once produced a legendary sea salt unlike any other, but nobody knew exactly how it was made. The knowledge had simply faded from history. Then in 1984, archaeologists made an incredible discovery near Hiroshima. Hidden beneath the soil were fragments of 5th century pottery coated with mysterious mineral deposits. As researchers pieced the evidence together, they realized they had uncovered the long-lost method used by ancient Japanese salt makers. A tradition that had vanished for over a millennium was suddenly alive again. Unlike many coastal regions, Japan has very few natural rock salt deposits, and its humid climate makes simple solar evaporation extremely difficult. Ancient craftsmen had to find another way. Their solution was brilliantly simple. They soaked a special type of seaweed in seawater, allowing it to absorb minerals from the ocean. The seaweed was then simmered together with the seawater over gentle heat until delicate salt crystals slowly began to appear. The seaweed wasn't just part of the process. It became part of the flavor. As the water reduced, natural compounds from the seaweed infused the salt with an extraordinary depth that ordinary sea salt could never achieve. The result is Amabito no moshio, a finishing salt with a rich umami character delivering subtle savory notes alongside its clean salinity. Instead of simply tasting salty, it adds complexity to every bite. That's why Japanese chefs often use it with foods that seem almost too simple to improve. Freshly steamed rice, tempura, grilled fish, silken tofu, even dark chocolate. The salt doesn't overpower these ingredients. It quietly enhances what is already there, allowing natural flavors to become fuller and more balanced. Today, production remains small and carefully controlled. Each batch honors a method that nearly vanished from history, making every crystal a connection to Japan's ancient culinary heritage. But while Amabito no moshio celebrates traditions rediscovered, the next Japanese salt pushes patience to an entirely different level. On a tiny island in Okinawa, producing a single batch can take nearly an entire month, and the first stage of the process involves seawater slowly dripping through thousands of hanging bamboo branches before a single crystal can even begin to form. Number 15. Aguni salt. Some gourmet salts take a few days to produce. Aguni salt can take nearly an entire month. On the tiny island of Aguni, located northwest of Okinawa, salt making isn't rushed. Every crystal is the result of patience, craftsmanship, and a process unlike anything else in the world. It begins with fresh seawater drawn from the pristine waters surrounding the island. But instead of boiling it immediately, the water is pumped to the top of a tall wooden tower filled with thousands of hanging bamboo branches. Then, nature takes over. As the seawater slowly trickles from branch to branch, the island's warm sea breeze continuously evaporates tiny amounts of moisture. Day after day, the water becomes more concentrated without using any fuel at all. After nearly a week, the brine is already about 6 times saltier than ordinary seawater. Only then does the second stage begin. The concentrated brine is transferred into large iron pans and gently simmered over wood fires for several more days. Workers carefully monitor the temperature throughout the process, preventing the crystals from forming too quickly. It's slow, it's exhausting, and there's no shortcut. Because Aguni Island has almost no heavy industry, the surrounding ocean remains exceptionally clean. The finished salt retains an unusually rich balance of natural minerals, giving it a flavor that's both savory and subtly sweet at the same time. Unlike aggressive finishing salts that dominate a dish, Aguni salt delivers remarkable balance. Its salinity arrives gently, followed by layers of mineral complexity that linger long after the first bite. That's why Japanese chefs often reserve it for ingredients that don't need to be hidden behind bold seasoning. Fresh sashimi, grilled seafood, steamed vegetables, silken tofu, or a simple bowl of premium rice. For much of the 20th century, traditional salt makers like those on Aguni Island nearly disappeared as Japan shifted toward mass-produced factory salt. Many believe this centuries-old craft would eventually vanish forever. Instead, a small group of dedicated artisans refused to let that happen. They revived the traditional methods, preserving not only a unique salt, but an important piece of Japan's cultural heritage. Today, Aguni salt is admired around the world, not because it's flashy, but because every crystal reflects weeks of careful work and generations of accumulated knowledge. But our journey doesn't end in Japan. Next, we're heading to Australia, where an environmental disaster unexpectedly gave birth to one of the world's most beautiful pink gourmet salts. Number 16. Murray River salt. Some of the world's finest gourmet ingredients were created by accident. Murray River salt is one of them. Its story doesn't begin with luxury dining or centuries-old tradition. It begins with an environmental crisis. In southeastern Australia, naturally salty groundwater had been slowly rising toward the surface, threatening farmland and eventually flowing into the Murray River, one of the country's most important freshwater systems. If nothing changed, the damage could have been enormous. Instead of treating the salty water as waste, engineers came up with a brilliant solution. They pumped the mineral-rich groundwater to the surface and transformed it into gourmet salt. what could have become a major pollution problem was turned into one of Australia's most celebrated culinary exports. Every single day, this process keeps hundreds of tons of salt from reaching the river system, protecting both farmland and wildlife. The salt itself is just as remarkable as the story behind it. Its soft, blush pink color comes naturally from trace minerals dissolved in the ancient underground water. Unlike the deeper pink tones of Himalayan salt, Murray River salt has a pale, almost peach-colored appearance that instantly stands out on the plate. But its greatest feature isn't the color, it's the texture. The crystals form into incredibly light, delicate flakes that practically disappear the moment they touch your tongue. They dissolve faster than almost any other finishing salt, delivering a clean burst of salinity without overpowering the food beneath. Many chefs describe it as one of the gentlest gourmet salts available. Its mild flavor makes it especially popular on foods where subtle seasoning is essential. Fresh oysters, grilled whitefish, poached eggs, buttered asparagus. Even creamy desserts like vanilla ice cream or salted caramel. Because the flakes are so fragile, they also create beautiful visual contrast without adding an unpleasant crunch. It's a salt designed to complement, not dominate. Perhaps that's what makes Murray River salt so memorable. It proves that innovation doesn't always mean inventing something new. Sometimes it simply means seeing value where everyone else sees a problem. But Australia isn't the only country with naturally pink salt. High in the Andes Mountains lies another ancient deposit formed from a prehistoric ocean, one so massive that humanity could mine it for thousands of years without making a noticeable dent. Number 17. Bolivian Rose Salt. Travel high into the Andes Mountains and you'll find one of the oldest salt deposits on the planet. Long before these towering peaks existed, this entire region lay beneath an ancient sea. Over millions of years, the water disappeared, leaving behind vast layers of mineral-rich salt. As the Andes slowly rose from the Earth's crust, those ancient deposits were lifted thousands of feet into the sky. Today they produce one of South America's most beautiful gourmet salts, Bolivian Rose Salt. At first glance, many people mistake it for Himalayan pink salt. But despite their similar appearance, their stories couldn't be more different. Bolivian Rose Salt is harvested near the edge of the legendary Salar de Uyuni region, home to one of the largest salt flats on Earth. The crystals are carved from ancient rock deposits that have remained untouched for countless generations. Its soft, rosy color comes naturally from tiny traces of iron locked inside the crystal over millions of years. No dyes, no additives, just nature taking its time. The flavor is equally refined. Compared with many bold mineral salts, Bolivian Rose Salt delivers a smooth, gentle salinity with a faint, natural sweetness that complements food without overpowering it. Because of that balance, chefs often pair it with premium cuts of beef, roasted vegetables, grilled seafood, and artisan breads. Most of the time, it isn't sold as fine table salt. Instead, it comes in large, crystalline chunks designed for a grinder. Crushing the salt moments before serving releases its freshest flavor while creating satisfying bursts of crunch on every bite. But perhaps the most astonishing part isn't the taste. It's the scale. The nearby salt flats contain an estimated 10 billion tons of salt. To put that into perspective, only around 25,000 tons are harvested each year. At that rate, humanity could continue mining for thousands of years without making a meaningful dent in the reserve. So despite its premium price, Bolivian Rose Salt isn't expensive because it's running out. It's expensive because harvesting, transporting, and processing it from such a remote, high-altitude location requires extraordinary effort. Sometimes rarity isn't about scarcity, it's about the journey. And after traveling from prehistoric oceans to the peaks of the Andes, we've reached the final stop on our salt expedition. Our last salt isn't famous for color, or rarity, or even ancient minerals. It's famous for something you can smell before you ever taste it. The rich aroma of wood smoke, fire, and centuries of Nordic tradition. Number 18. Danish Viking Smoked Salt. Some salts disappear quietly into a dish. This one announces its presence before it ever reaches your mouth. The moment you open the container, the unmistakable aroma of hardwood smoke fills the air, instantly bringing to mind campfires, smoked meats, and old-world kitchens. This is Danish Viking Smoked Salt. Inspired by the smoking traditions of Scandinavia, it's one of the few salts whose flavor is shaped as much by fire as by the sea. The process begins with clean seawater, but instead of relying only on evaporation, producers slowly heat the water in the large open pans positioned directly above burning wood. As the water evaporates, the forming salt crystals are continuously surrounded by fragrant smoke from carefully selected hardwoods such as juniper, cherry, and oak. The smoke doesn't simply coat the surface. It gradually becomes part of every crystal. The result is a salt with an incredibly rich aroma that many people compare to bacon, wood-fired barbecue, or even the lingering scent of a crackling campfire. Unlike artificially flavored products, Danish Viking smoked salt develops its character naturally through hours of slow smoking. Every batch is slightly different depending on the wood, the weather, and the length of the smoking process. That unpredictability is part of its charm. Its bold flavor means a little goes a very long way. Just a small pinch can completely transform an ordinary dish. Chefs often use it to finish grilled steaks, smoked salmon, roasted potatoes, burgers, mushrooms, roasted vegetables, or even creamy soups. Some adventurous bartenders even add a few crystals to a Bloody Mary or whiskey cocktail, where the smoky aroma creates an entirely new drinking experience. More than anything, this salt carries a taste of history. For centuries, both smoking and salting were essential survival techniques across Northern Europe. Long before refrigeration existed, these two methods allowed families to preserve food through harsh winters. Danish Viking smoked salt brings those ancient traditions into the modern kitchen, one crystal at a time. It isn't just seasoning, it's history you can taste. From ordinary table salt that quietly transformed public health, to hand-harvested French crystals worth their weight in gold. From naturally blue salt hidden deep beneath the mountains of Iran, to Korean bamboo salt roasted 9 times inside real bamboo. It's incredible how one simple ingredient can take so many completely different forms. Every salt tells its own story. Some are shaped by ancient oceans, some by volcanic earth, some by centuries of craftsmanship passed from one generation to the next. And while they all begin with the same basic mineral, each one brings something unique to the table, whether it's extraordinary texture, unforgettable flavor, breathtaking color, or a remarkable history. The next time you reach for a pinch of salt, you'll know there's far more inside those tiny crystals than meets the eye. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the fascinating world of salt, you'll definitely want to watch our next video, where we break down every cooking oil explained, from everyday vegetable oils to the world's rarest gourmet varieties, revealing which ones are truly worth using and which ones might surprise you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.